keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lockdock and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lockdock and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
Palm Garden of Ocala leads in the area of orthopedic care with proven outcomes. Planning to have a new hip or knee joint due to arthritis or as the result of a fall? Palm Garden may be the answer. Guests appreciate the services of highly trained therapists and state-of-the-art equipment. And if you pre-register, you can secure a private room at no extra charge by mentioning this ad. Palm Garden makes no bones about it. They provide the best in orthopedic care. Call 854-6262. That's 854-6262.
The entire world watched. They watched each step down the rungs of that small ladder, one after another, and waited with great anticipation for that last step.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
At that moment, humanity saw the impossible become the possible. And today, the sky is not the limit. Achievement. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
A young woman contemplating having an abortion is told by society that whether she has her baby or not, it is her choice. The House of One in Faith in Ocala wants to give that young woman a place to live in comfort during her trying time, to help her know that God's love is abundant and that He is not ashamed of her in any way. The House of One in Faith is free and confidential. For more information, call 352-687-8895.
All right, 18 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Dan was telling me that Anthony James was not going to be able to be on this morning, and so I wanted to use this opportunity to talk about the confirmation hearings that is happening right now. Betsy DeVos specifically. I wanted to ask you something about her and tell you something, a thought I had on her. She, of course, is she's going through the procedure through the Senate, and they in Washington to try to vet her, I guess is the best word, to see if she would be the best person to have the job as in the education department in the United States federal level, the one that Donald Trump, he picked her for that job. So Al Franken asked her a question about her thoughts on proficiency and growth. She really had kind of a cringeworthy answer. Mm-hmm. This is what she said. She said, I think if I am understanding your question correctly around proficiency, I would correlate it to competency and mastery. So each student, according to the advancements they are making in each subject area. And then Al Franken said, that's growth. That's not proficiency. By the time DeVos understood Franken's question, she had no time left to answer. So if there are any teachers out there or education specialists, and I'm not trying to make this political, but I'm just trying to understand the difference. And I want to tell you what I think is the difference, because I'm not a teacher. Now, she should know that the reason that's a cringeworthy moment listening to her is that you realize she has no idea what Al Franken is talking about. That's not a good position to be in. Mm-mm. I'm a radio announcer. I have a good excuse to not know this, but this is what I think it is. And if you're a teacher, an educator, I invite you to correct me on anything I'm going to say that's wrong. I want to learn. This is my learning moment here, and hopefully we'll all learn from this. Okay, so what is proficiency and growth? This is how I view it. Okay, this is absolutely true. I'm going to use my own circumstance if you don't mind. When I was 17, I moved from New York to Dunellen. Okay? The education we had in math in New York was way beyond, and and this was 1972, so it's 100 years ago. Not really 100, but feels like it. So what the students, myself included, were learning in math in New York was way beyond what they were learning in Dunellen High School at that time. And so I entered the second half of my 11th grade able to get an A on everything. I mean, I was so far ahead of everybody else that it was like going back to third grade or whatever. I knew what they were talking about, so I could get all my answers correctly. So that would make the school look really good, because the school would be great on the scores that I, as a student, was contributing to the overall average. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, and this was something that was talked about, let's see if I have the dates right, in the No Child Left Behind Act was replaced by the Every Student Succeeds Act, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's right, in 2015 and 2016. So. Okay.
Yeah.
So a school, according to the new way of doing it, instead of just saying, did the students get an A or not, it's, did the student improve or not? Mm-hmm. So if I enter a third grade, let's use not me, but just a random, just fictional person. So let's say a student enters third grade, and a third grader is supposed to be able to read third grade level reading. Okay, that's the best way to say this. And he or she enters the third grade only knowing second grade reading. Something happened. Maybe she moved in from a new school, whatever. But she's only got the second grade reading level. She doesn't have the third grade reading level, right? So now she is going to get an F in reading. Mm-hmm. Okay? 6 months into her third grade, however, she has advanced to being the third grade reading level. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now she's at the same level as the other students. Shouldn't the school be congratulated for taking a student who was falling behind and bringing her up? That's growth.
Yes.
Proficiency is where you are. So if you're a teacher, am I right? Is that how you look at this? Is that the difference between proficiency and growth? Mm-hmm. You know? If you go into a school, and so using the opposite example, you enter third grade and you're at the fourth grade reading level, right? You're going to get all A's. At the end of that third grade, you're still at the fourth grade reading level. You haven't grown at all. You haven't grown at all. So, but you're still getting A's. So does that student, if you're measuring that into the final score that the school gets, which is in our day and age, this wasn't when we were kids, Robin, but schools get money based on how well they do.
Yeah.
Right?
They do.
So that's my thought on this. So it's the proficiency versus growth debate that Al Franken was referring to. Mm-hmm. The fact that Betsy DeVos had no clue what he was talking about tells me that maybe the implication that she should not be confirmed to that position is not a bad call on Al Franken's part, as much as I have picked on Al Franken in the past. I think in this case,
right,
maybe he's on to something with her. We need somebody else in that position. And that makes this a political thing. I'm not making it political. I couldn't care less, Republican, Democrat. Just if we're going, my bottom line feeling is that the schools should be run no higher than the state level. There should be the federal level but that's my opinion, and that's not the way it is. The way it is we do have schools governed on the federal level.
Right.
Okay, so since that is the case, and since we are going to have somebody in that position, and since the president-elect is recommending who would be in those positions only to be confirmed or not confirmed by Congress, then yes, we need to vet every single one of these people, and we can't just say, "Oh, come on, Al Franken, you've been a dope. You're a dope again. This lady should be put into the position." Well, maybe not. Maybe in this case, he's really found something that it is kind of weird that she squirmed a bit with that question.
Yeah, exactly. She should have been able to nail it like you've nailed it.
The proficiency. Did I nail it though? That's my mom. I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm telling you what I
think so.
I think it is.
The way you're interpreting it is.
Now your brother's a teacher.
Good.
I would like to get a teacher in on this. The proficiency versus growth debate is about how schools should be held accountable for their students' test scores. And so I'm reading now. Proficiency means judging whether kids hit a benchmark, such as whether they can read at grade level. Growth means judging how much progress they've made. If they started the school year behind, are they catching up even if they're not at grade level yet? So a child who gets a C, started out as an F,
Yeah.
right? That would be growth, and that would be something you should measure, even though she or he is still getting a C. You know?
Yeah, it should be measured.
So I don't know how they do the calculations to determine what the final grade is for the school. A school that looks fine if you're only measuring proficiency might not look good if you measure growth. Absolutely.
Certainly.
And a school that is not hitting proficiency benchmarks could still be helping students make fast progress that shows up in a growth measurement. Absolutely, based on what I believe the two things are.
Right, exactly.
But anyway, so there you go. Betsy DeVos might, I don't know, just based on that one thing. I haven't been following the whole thing. I was just reading this article about the basic question about proficiency versus growth. So.
But that's really, really something good to consider, and you've got to consider all the factors. And I don't think one generic test is a good grade. I think, like you, the teacher knows all of her students or his students that come in at the beginning of the year, and they're privy to how they grow or how they're not growing, and then they try to help them along.
See, and the whole thing, I've always had this problem with the voucher system, and it's this, is that if a school gets its money based on how well or poorly the student body does, and the kid who gets zeros on everything gets a voucher because the school is failing him rather than he's failing, then that kid takes that voucher and goes to a private school and now takes his zero grade out of the school average.
Right.
Now the school suddenly looks better because that zero isn't calculated in, and the student theoretically is going to do better because now a private school can give him more attention, which I don't know that that's always true.
No, it's not.
And you, the taxpayer, are now paying for a child to have a private education that is really only a political move because it takes the zero grade away from a school that otherwise should have probably had it figured in.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems I've had with vouchers. Now, a lot of people say vouchers are a Republican thing. In Florida, vouchers were a Jeb Bush thing, so I guess it would be Republican. But hey, just because it's Republican and I vote Republican doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it.
Yeah.
I see problems with it.
Sure.
So it's one of those things that I wish we could have conversations about without being called names.
Yeah.
You know, without being condescended to. But anyway, so if you're following the Senate Health and Education Committee hearings up in D.C., and you wondered about that whole proficiency versus growth, that's my, I don't know, elementary school understanding of it.
Well, you expressed it really, really well. I now have a better grasp on it.
All right, let's move forward. Fun with Joe coming up in just about 10 minutes. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.